Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Eduyot. We are up to Perek Aleph Mishna Yudalid. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'ilui Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbayev Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Chana ben Miriam Sason ben Ryan Yoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam beGan Eden Amen and Leavdil ben Chaim Lechaim v'Derefua Shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa B'Tok Sha'Cholei Israel and Dachlama Merav Binyamin Od Zion Chai ben Dvorah. A human corpse spreads tumah to objects that are under the same roof as it is. If a utensil is under the same roof as a corpse, the utensil and everything inside it become tameh. An exception to this rule is an earthenware vessel with a sealed cover. If it is under the same roof as a corpse, neither the vessel nor anything inside it becomes tameh. The reason for this is that while most objects, metal or wooden objects, become tameh, if any part of them comes into contact with the tameh item, an earthenware vessel can become tameh only if the tumah enters the inside of the vessel. If the vessel is sealed, the tumah from the corpse cannot enter it, and therefore it cannot become tameh. This is the Torah law. The Mishnah cites a dispute whether by rabbinic law certain things become tameh even if they are inside a sealed earthenware vessel. Kli cheres matzil alakon k'divrei Bet Hillel. An earthenware vessel that is sealed shut protects everything inside it from becoming tameh from a corpse. This is according to the opinion of Bet Hillel. ובית שמאי אומרים, בבית שמאי say, אינו מציל אלא על האוכלים ועל המשקים ועל כלי חרס. It protects only food, drink, and other earthenware objects. The rabbis decreed that any other items that are inside an earthenware vessel become tameh, even if the earthenware vessel is sealed. Now, Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai debate their opinions. Their discussion revolves around some laws related to an Ama'aretz, a person who does not observe the laws of Tumah properly. The rabbis decreed that such a person and all his possessions must always be considered Tameh. Amru lehem Bet Hillel said to Bet Shammai, Mipnei ma, why should anything be Tameh if it is inside a sealed earthenware vessel? Amru lehem Bet Shammai said to Bet Hillel, Mipnei shehu Tameh al gav am haaretz. Because if an earthenware vessel belongs to an Ama'aretz, it is tameh on account of the Ama'aretz, because all of an Ama'aretz's utensils are considered tameh. Then kli tameh chotzetz, a vessel that is tameh cannot block tumah from spreading to the objects inside it. Therefore, whatever is inside this vessel will become tameh, even if the vessel is sealed. The law that a sealed earthenware vessel protects its contents from tumah applies only if the earthenware vessel is tahor. A vessel that is tameh cannot block tumah from spreading to its contents. Since some earthenware vessels, namely those belonging to Ama'aretz, do not protect their contents from becoming tameh, the rabbis decreed as a precaution that all earthenware vessels do not protect their contents from tumah. Bet Hillel respond, Amru lahem Bet Hillel said to Bet Shammai, V'alo tihartem ochalim umashkin shebetocho, but you said that food and drink and earthenware utensils stay tahor if they are inside a sealed earthenware vessel. If you are concerned about objects inside the earthenware vessel of an Ama'aretz, why is everything not tameh? Bet Shammai defend their opinion. Amru lehem Bet Shammai said to Bet Hillel, Keshetiharnu ochalim umashkin shebetocho, when we said that food and drink and earthenware objects that are inside a sealed earthenware vessel are tahor, the fact that we ruled them tahor will make a difference only for the Ama'aretz himself. A chaver, someone who is careful about the laws of Tumah, does not borrow these things from an Ama'aretz. Since an Ama'aretz's possessions are all considered tameh, a chaver who borrowed a utensil from an Ama'aretz would immerse it in a mikveh to purify it before using it. Food, drink, and earthenware objects, though, can never be purified from Tumah. Once they become tameh, they remain tameh. Therefore, a chaver would never borrow such items from an Ama'aretz. Therefore, if we say these objects are tahor, it will not affect a chaver at all. The decree was made to protect a chaver from unintentionally transgressing the laws of Tumah. There was no need to make a decree about utensils that will be used only by an Ama'aretz, since he is not careful to observe the laws of Tumah. In any case, we are not overly concerned if he does not realize that his possessions are tameh. Aval kshetiharte et hakli, however, when you said that even a regular object is tahor if it is inside a sealed earthenware vessel, the fact that you ruled it tahor makes a difference for you, a chaver, and for him, an Ama'aretz. Since a chaver might borrow these items from an Ama'aretz, we are concerned that the following might happen. An Ama'aretz will have a sealed earthenware vessel containing a utensil that was under the same roof as a dead body. Since the earthenware vessel of an am haaretz is tameh, it does not block the tumah, and the utensil inside becomes tameh. Thinking that sealed earthenware vessels protect their contents from tumah, the am haaretz will lend the utensil to a chaver without telling him that it had been under the same roof as a corpse, and the chaver will use the object without purifying it from corpse tumah. Although the chaver will immerse it in a mikveh, as he does whenever he borrows something from an am haaretz, that is not enough to purify an item from corpse tumah. Such an item must be purified by being sprinkled with water mixed with the ashes of a parah dumah, the red cow. Since the chaver does not know that this item is tameh from a corpse, he will not purify it in the proper manner. To avoid such a situation, the rabbis decreed that sealed earthenware vessels do not protect their contents from tumah, with the exception of food, drink, and other earthenware items, as explained earlier. Now that the rabbis decreed that sealed earthenware vessels never protect their contents from tumah, this problem is solved. If a chaver borrows a utensil that has been in a vessel that was under the same roof as a dead body, the am haaretz will know that it is tameh and will tell the chaver what happened. We are not concerned that the am haaretz will lie about the facts. And since the am haaretz often does not consider himself an am haaretz, the rabbis had to decree that all such earthenware vessels are tameh. If they would have said that only the vessels of an am haaretz are tameh, many am haaretz would think that the decree does not apply to them. Chazru Bet Hillel leorot kedivrei Bet Shammai. Bet Hillel then retracted their original ruling and began to rule like the opinion of Bet Shammai. And that is the end of Perek Aleph Mishnah Yudalid. We continue with Perek Bet Mishnah Aleph. The chapter begins with testimonies about various subjects given by Rabbi Chanina, the administrator of the Kohanim. The first of these testimonies, which also appear in Pesachim chapter 1 Mishnah 6, concerns the prohibition against causing tirumah or kodashim, sacrificial items, to become tameh. It deals with the question of whether one may add greater levels of tumah to tirumah or kodashim that are already somewhat tameh. Now, the laws discussed by the Mishnah are very difficult and require a background knowledge of the different levels of tumah. Therefore, we're going to read the note in the Article Elucidated, which gives a brief outline. There are two basic classes of tumah discussed in our Mishnah: things that are sources of tumah, meaning they create tumah, and things that become tumah by contact with sources of tumah. A source of tumah is called an ava tumah, whereas an item that acquires tumah from a source is called in our Mishnah vlada tumah, something that received tumah. Examples of sources of tumah are dead animals of various kinds and people with certain bodily conditions like tzarat, which the Torah decrees to be sources of tumah. Examples of received tumah are people, utensils, foods, and beverages that touched a source of tumah. The most intense source of tumah is that of a human corpse, which is known as an avi avot tumah, literally the father of tumah. It is given this name because it makes most vessels and people that come in contact with it an ava tumah, even though they're not actually a source of tumah. There are varying levels of received tumah. An item that received its tumah directly from an ava tumah is called a rishon, first degree of received tumah. It can transmit tumah to foods and beverages, but not to people or utensils. A food or beverage that becomes tameh from a rishon is known as a sheni, second degree of received tumah. With regard to chulin, non-sanctified items, there is no tumah after the sheni level. Tirumah, however, can become a shlishi, a third degree of tumah, and kodashim, sacrificial items, can even become a riv'i, a fourth degree of received tumah. Kodashim that become tameh may not be offered on the altar. There is a biblical commandment to destroy them by fire away from the altar, as it says in the Torah in Vayikra chapter 7 verse 19, and the Rambam writes in Echot Psulei HaMukdashin chapter 19 halacha 1. Rabbi Chanina Sgan HaKohanim me'id arba dvarim. Rabbi Chanina, the administrator of the Kohanim, testified regarding four matters. Now, the Sgan, the administrator, was deputy to the Kohen Gadol, serving in the Kohen Gadol's place when he was unavailable. He was also in charge of all the other Kohanim, as the Rambam writes in Echot Klei HaMikdash chapter 4 halacha 16. Rabbi Chanina's first testimony: Mimehem shel Kohanim, in all the days of the Kohanim, lo nimneu milisrof et habasar shenitma bivlad tumah. They did not refrain from burning sacrificial meat that became tameh by touching a sheni of tumah, thereby becoming a shlishi. Generally speaking, vlada tumah, literally offspring of tumah, is something that acquired its tumah by touching an av tumah. The offspring is therefore a rishon, and the meat that touches it becomes a sheni. However, our Mishnah is discussing sacrificial meat that touched the offspring of tumah, meaning the sacrificial meat did not touch a rishon, and become a sheni, rather touch a sheni and became a shlishi. So they did not refrain from burning sacrificial meat that had become tameh by touching a sheni of tumah, ima basal shenitma be'avat tumah, together with other sacrificial meat that had become tameh by touching an avat tumah, thereby becoming a rishon. Afal pishim mosifin tumah tumato, even though by burning the two pieces of meat together, they were adding a greater level of tumah to the tumah of the first piece. When the meat that was a shlishi, the third degree, touches the meat that was a rishon, the first degree, while being burned together with it, the shlishi becomes a sheni, a second degree. Its level of tumah thereby increases. Nevertheless, the kohanim in charge of the temple did not refrain from burning such pieces together. We see from this that although it is forbidden to cause tumah to sacrificial meat, to kodashim, once something is tameh, it is permissible to impart a higher level of tumah to it, since it is no longer going to be eaten in any case, but is being burned on account of its tumah. The next Tana is even more lenient. Hosif Rabbi Akiva went further and said, Mimeim shel kohanim, in all the days of the kohanim, lo nimnu meladlik et hashemen shenifsal bitvul yom, they did not refrain from burning oil of tirumah that had become disqualified. In the context of tumah, disqualified refers to something that becomes tameh at so low a level that it cannot make anything else of its kind tameh. For example, tirumah that is a sheni is called tameh, since it can still cause other tirumah to be a shlishi. However, tirumah that becomes a shlishi is called pasul, disqualified, because it cannot make any other tirumah to be tameh. So they did not refrain from burning oil of tirumah that had become disqualified by coming into contact with the tvul yom, a person with a sheni level of tumah, who therefore made the oily touch the shlishi. A person who is tameh must immerse himself in a mikveh to become ta'or. Even then, he does not become completely ta'or until nightfall of the day on which he immersed himself. Between the time he immerses and nightfall, he is called a tvul yom, literally someone who immersed that day. A tvul yom may not eat tirumah or kodashim, as the Torah says in Vayikra chapter 22 verse 7, and the Rambam writes in Echot Tirumot chapter 7 and 2, and if he touches them, they become contaminated with tumah, as the Rambam writes in Avot Tumot chapter 11 and 3. A tvul yom has a sheni level of tumah, and tirumah or kodashim that come in contact with them become a shlishi. So he says they did not refrain from burning oil of tirumah that had become disqualified by coming into contact with the tvul yom. B'ner shenitma bitmemet, in a metal lamp that had become tameh by touching someone who had become tameh from a corpse, making the lamp an avatumah. Now, the word lamp in Mishnah refers to a bowl in which oil and a wick are placed and lit. Although tirumah that is tameh must be burned, it is permitted for kohanim to benefit from the process of burning it. For example, the Rambam writes in Echot Tirumot chapter 2 halacha 14, tirumah oil that became tameh may be used by kohanim for lighting an oil lamp. Now, most lamps in the times of the Mishnah were made of pottery, though some were made of metal. Our Mishnah speaks of a metal lamp for the reason that we're going to explain. A person who touches a corpse becomes an avatumah, and a person or utensil who touches him becomes a rishon. However, this is true only for earthenware utensils, pottery. With regard to other types of utensils that come in contact with the corpse tumah, the Torah in Bamidbar, chapter 19, verse 16, as explained by the Gemara Pesachim, page 14b, states a unique rule. The utensil assumes the level of tumah of whatever it touches. If it touches a corpse, it becomes an avi avot tumah, like the corpse itself. If it touches a person that had become tameh from a corpse, it too becomes an avatumah. The Mishnah speaks of a lamp that touched a person who had touched a corpse. By touching the corpse, the person became an avatumah. The lamp that touches person therefore also became an avatumah, since we are dealing with the metal lamp, not earthenware one. By pouring the oil into it, we're making that oil, which until now had only been a shlishi, a third degree, into a rishon, a first degree, since it is now in contact with an avatumah, the lamp. Now, the Rav states that the special law of utensils applies to all utensils except earthenware ones. This is the view of some authorities. However, many authorities disagree and state that this unique law applies only to metal instruments and utensils, but not to those made of wood or other materials. Even though by doing so they were adding a greater level of tumah to the oil's previous level of tumah. After coming into contact with the tvul yom, the oil had carried only a shlishi, a third degree level of tumah, whereas upon coming into contact with the lamp, which has an av level of tumah, it becomes a rishon, a first degree. We see from this that although it is forbidden to cause tumah to tirumah, it is permissible to make a rishon, first degree, out of tirumah that previously had only been a shlishi, a third degree, since the tirumah is in any case being burned on account of its tumah. Rabbi Akiva's teaching is even more lenient than Rabbi Chanina's. whereas Rabbi Chanina's testimony taught only that it's permissible to raise the level of Tumah 1 degree by making a 2nd degree out of something that had previously been a 3rd degree, Rabbi Akiva's testimony demonstrates that it is permissible even to raise the level of Tumah 2 degrees by making a 1st degree out of something that was previously a 3rd degree. And that is Anabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.